Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Sports Insight with your host, Alandar Khan. And yes, as you know, we give quality information with regards to sports from all across the globe. You guys can surely reach out to us on our social media handle, which is @ Indus News Sports. That basically works for Twitter and Instagram. But anyways, we'll go to the headlines first. Yes, football qualifier. Armenia actually managed to beat Romania 3-2 in the FIFA World Cup qualifier round. And from the world of NBA, Brooklyn Nets actually beat Houston Rockets 120-108 on Thursday. From the world of cricket, West Indies versus Sri Lanka. The second test, day 3. West Indies lead Sri Lanka by 104 runs. And from the world of tennis, yes, Miami Open 2021. Maria Sakkari beats Naomi Osaka to book the semi-final spot. And yes, those were the headlines. And to begin with, obviously, we'll talk more about the world of football. Yes, the World Cup FIFA qualifier matches are currently underway, and some major turn of events are happening, and some major upsets actually happen as well. But to discuss all of this, we have with us Philippe B, all the way from Toronto. Philippe, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Pleasure. All right, Philippe, I'll start with the first match that obviously happened, and you are specifically an expert when it comes to Romanian football. So Armenia actually managed to beat Romania 3-2. So yeah, I would want to have your take on it, and where do you see the future of Romanian football?
So it is a bit of a shock to us, but not entirely unexpected that we would concede a couple of goals, because our defense right now is very poor.
Right.
It's an area of struggle for us, and the coach has not organized that area well, combined with the fact that our defenders themselves are not at the highest quality at the moment.
Right.
But we are looking forward to the under-21s generation to be promoted in the fall.
Right.
But for this match, it's really a shock, because 5 years ago, with what I would say is a less talented side, we won 5-0 against Armenia,
Right.
in Armenia. And in this match, we just absolutely we dominated in the first half, and in the second half, our plan just crumbled because as soon as they took the lead with a shot from outside the box,
Right.
We absolutely responded poorly with little desire. And Chicaldo from my team, Craiova,
Right.
he scored 2 goals, his first 2 goals for the national team.
Right.
But then he was immediately substituted soon after, and Pushkash also got a red card with a reckless high foot to get sent off. And from there, we kind of really got, we played very scared. The manager made a strange substitution. He took off Chicaldo, our holding midfielder, and it was really a bad moment for us. And in the final minutes, Armenia managed to actually score 1 goal, which was slightly offside,
Right.
and the other a penalty. So in the last 3 minutes, Armenia pulled off this amazing result for them, and they continue their great run with 9 points,
Right.
top of the group.
So how do you see? Do you think that once the substitution was made, that they eventually came up to the point of losing that motivation, or was it the strategical side? Because I think, as per the team itself, I think our Romanians are comparatively solid with regards to their front side, obviously not the defense side. So how do you see, what actually brought them to crumble down their entire plan?
I think, to be honest, in this particular moment, it was more than just the defense. It was also our coach with the substitutions, as you said. Because if you take off Pushkash,
Right.
when he was already on a booking, I think he wouldn't get that red card, and that wouldn't put us in a lurch with just 10 minutes to go, right?
Right.
And also bringing on another striker in the place of the attacking midfielder, Maxime.
Right.
That was also strange to me. So you have 2 strikers when we're already 2-1 up, in the
Right.
last 10 minutes.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what he was thinking with that substitution.
Anyways, we still have a lot of further matches coming up. I hope in the future the Romanian team makes more effort to come up to the charts so that we can see them in the World Cup. Anyways, I'll switch over to the next match that I wanted to discuss with you. Italy actually managed to win against Lithuania to begin with 2-0. What's your take on that one?
So, yeah, it was a crazy first half, a lot of chances, but unfortunately, Italy just couldn't bury any of them.
Right.
So, but they finally broke the deadlock in the second half through Sensi. So basically, the ball was played back from inside the box to the top of the box,
Right.
and he managed a nice shot, Stefano Sensi, and so they were finally one nothing up.
Right.
And again, still many more chances until the very last minutes when they conceded a penalty. Lithuania conceded a penalty at the edge of the box,
Right.
and Ciro Immobile managed to put that in the back of the net, the famed striker. But this is a game where Italy rested, a lot of their usual starters, so that is also a factor probably.
Right.
And Mancini was just experimenting a bit, as with all respect to Lithuania, this is a game that Italy, could afford that, I would say.
Right.
But they still didn't. They managed not to get very many goals. So
I think they could have managed to get many goals, but as you said, I guess they were experimenting because if you look back into the last three matches, Italy is surely on the top of the Group C. And Lithuania itself, they are like on the fifth. So, anyways, I hope that things may develop more because Italy does have a solid football background, and we're sure that they could have done way much better. I'll just switch over to the next match that we want to talk about. Greece actually managed to draw against Georgia. What's your take on that one?
well, Greece is a team that used to be quite like Italy, like we said, to find a way to win. But
Right.
it seems in recent times, and especially here so far, it's not quite the case. They've got two draws. First against Spain, which was not a bad result at all, but with Georgia, they were very much expected to win, right? So not only that, they didn't really dominate. Georgia had quite a few chances, and it started off quite okay. Well, I shouldn't say started off. In the final minutes, Georgia actually conceded an own goal.
Right.
So, there was some hope for Greece at that point. A very strange own goal because there was no pressure really, and the defender simply, touched it into his net instead of anywhere else when he wasn't even really quite under pressure. So that was just a bad moment for the Georgians until like 2 minutes later, they actually equalized through Kvaratskhelia, who he took the ball from the out wide and he
Right.
just went directly in the box. A simple dribble to the right and then a finish.
Right.
So I think Greece defending there was quite poor, but credit to the Georgians for a nice perseverance and managing to score.
So I hope things go well because this was definitely a draw. I'll talk about obviously the Group J. So Group J actually has Armenia to begin with. Obviously, as discussed earlier, they managed to beat Romanians. But then we talk about a very interesting match that I would want to talk about when the underdogs actually managed to win against Germany. I guess I'm talking about North Macedonia, who actually managed to win against the Germans 2-1, which is to utter surprise to everybody. And even if you look at the match, there were so many chances that the Germans had. And I still remember in the second half, there was this handball on the German side, but the referee did not give that. So what's your take on the Germans' performance so far?
I think they've really been underperforming, even though, as you say, they had chances yesterday. Sorry.
Yeah.
Even with Romania, they kept a low score, and I don't think they're at their best right now,
Right.
quite honestly. But credit to Macedonia because they have a really underrated team, I think. Quite a few players playing in the top leagues.
Right.
Bardi for Levante is quite a good player. And he actually gave the assist to Pandev, the Inter legend,
Right.
now at Genoa. but he's a very old player, 38, I believe, and he's still playing at a high level, and he showed it. He scored a very nice goal inside the left post.
Right. And looking
And
at
then
the first, even if you look first half of the match, 45th minute, it was the 45th minute plus extra time when the Macedonians actually managed to score the first goal. How much pressure would have that goal particularly brought to the Germans that they eventually came tumbling down, even though they managed to score another goal? But it was an utter surprise for, I guess, everybody.
Yeah, I think going into halftime, that is a huge motivational factor for Macedonia, as well as a kick to the Germans to react. But unfortunately, they didn't react well enough. I think we can't say that entirely because Werner should have scored an equalizer, or rather, yeah, he should have scored his goal.
Right.
But he missed an absolute sitter in the box, so that also had an influence on the result.
There were
Not
two.
sure
There were
how-
two. There were two particular assists that I was looking at, which actually Germans managed to miss, and though both of them were in the second half. But not to forget that there was this handball in the Germans' side, and the referee never managed to give a penalty kick.
That's true. Gundogan managed to score from the spot as well. But as you say, that those are two very important factors from the second half, which could have changed the game.
Absolutely.
But
anyways,
yeah, I would have to say
yeah,
Elmas in the final minutes really wrapped it up, with his goal. He's very good right now. He's playing for Napoli.
Right.
So they have a few informed players at some top clubs, relatively top clubs. So, credit to Macedonia for having, an underrated group of players and also a tactical plan, which they executed very well with the counter. Very solid, robust defensively and countering well.
Yeah, I would want to talk about the Group J now, obviously in which Armenia is also there, Macedonia is also there. So Armenia is on top right now and Macedonia is on number 2. And third one is Germany. And then comes Romania. And then Iceland. But tell me something, how do you see now the struggle for the Romanians will be more difficult? What do you see the future of their football perspectives?
I think once again, we like to shoot ourselves in the foot with some of our, all credit to Armenia because they're on a great run, but we definitely don't help ourselves with some of our decisions.
Right.
And I think everything's going to rely on our results in September, obviously, mainly with the first match against Iceland. If we don't beat Iceland in the first match, we might as well, say goodbye, in my opinion.
Right.
Of course, it's still a very open group. I think Macedonia and Armenia both have good chances to finish second.
Right.
But we're still in it. So it's an open group. We have to see how we change things up in September with regards to the manager, regards with promotions of the under-21 players who performed well at the under-21 championships.
Right.
So we'll have to see how we react.
Well, Philippe, I hope for the best for Romanians and obviously the entire Group J. Thank you so very much for being a part of the show.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Pleasure. So yes, that was Philippe B all the way from Toronto. And yes, he did tell us how the Romanians struggled. And now they're still struggling to get what they truly want. Obviously, everybody's got their eyes on the table for now so that they can get into these qualifiers so that they could be part of the FIFA World Cup. But anyways, this was pretty much from the football side. What we'll do is we'll take a break, and once we're back from the break, there's further more to come. See you guys after the break. And welcome back after the break. Yes, before the break we were discussing the World Cup qualifying rounds and interesting turn of events, and we surely talked about that, but there's some major turn of events in the world of NBA as well that we'd want to talk more about. And to discuss this, we have with us Mr. Ricardo Barreto, all the way from Portugal. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure. So we'll start on the first things first. Brooklyn Nets actually managing to beat the Rockets 120 to 108 on Thursday. What's your take on that? But we'll surely get to the sad part of the match, which is obviously James Harden injury as well. But how did you see the match overall?
Well, I believe this was a game that the Houston Rocket players had marked in the calendar, a red mark, red circle around the calendar, right. Because obviously the way that James Harden left the Houston Rockets was not seen with good eyes by the Rockets players. So I believe there was some kind of revenge feeling for the Houston Rockets when coming to Brooklyn and meeting former player James Harden. So that's why I believe they started off so well, dominating the first half.
Right.
They got to an 18-point lead really quickly, but then the difference of talent between the two teams just came out to the floor, and in the second half, the Nets took over the game, even without James Harden in the fourth quarter. Kyrie Irving had a season high 12 assists, and obviously he took over the game.
Right. But looking at the idea, if we talk about the duos, initially they were working to get the trio on board and they wanted to get that trio up and running. That was, I think, one of the biggest trade that really happened back then when Kevin Durant was actually pulled in. But since the time that he got in, he's been definitely injured and we still don't know much. So why is this injury element? Because it could have been a trio, but I don't know, it would definitely impact the Nets in the future. How do you see that? Because now the duos, I mean, the other person is obviously, the injury is coming all the way to the entire Nets. How do you see them facing the next match?
Well, they are playing back-to-back. They are playing tonight again against Charlotte. So I don't know if James Harden is going to stay out of this game tonight. But when you have three superstars like Kyrie Irving, Kevin Durant, and James Harden, you always have a chance to win, even if it's only one of them who plays. So we'll see. This has been a strange season with so many injuries. And if we take a look specifically at the Brooklyn Nets, we remember when James Harden was traded, he tweeted "scary hours" or "scary coming." But if you look at the games, the three main guys from the Brooklyn Nets only played together in 7 games, right. And they are already in the first place of the Eastern Conference. So I believe the scary hours are yet to come.
So I hope that, as you mentioned, the tonight's match, let's hope for the best that, eventually it comes to a point of James Harden playing for the Nets. Because, for instance, as you mentioned, that now that they're on the top, they can't afford to, go back to the second place or maybe lose more matches. Because, that's how it would establish the Nets as one of the strongest team out there.
Yes, even though I don't believe home court advantage in the playoffs is that important this year. The teams are opening their arenas to public already. Only 10 teams are not allowing public at the moment. Right. So when it comes to the playoffs, I don't think it will be a great advantage to play at home or away, because there will be not a big influence of the public in those games. So when it comes to the playoffs, your team is better if you have star power, and the Nets have star power. They don't have healthy star power, but they do have star power.
Right. But, as you mentioned, the attendance definitely does a lot. And during these Corona times, things have actually changed. Having that motivation of your own people supporting you, your own crowd supporting you. When you don't have that, I think players have been out of that situation of, believing and performing extra while being on the home ground.
Yeah, there are not many teams who have had a better record at home than away, because for them, without a crowd, there isn't much of a difference. But when the crowds are beginning to come back to the arenas, so I think it's a matter of time until we have more and more people in the arenas, and maybe we can have a little bit of that influence when the playoffs start.
Right. Anyways, we'll switch over to the next match. Obviously, that's something also I wanted to discuss with you. Let's talk about Orlando Magic's win against the Clippers, 103-96 on Wednesday.
Well, that was a strange game. Obviously, the Clippers were on the second night of a back-to-back, and the coach Tyronn Lue talked about it and said fatigue maybe had something to do with the Clippers' bad performance, and maybe not just fatigue, because now when you play the Orlando Magic, maybe you have too much confidence that you are going to win, because the Magic in the trade deadline just traded 4 of their five starters. So the three of their best scorers, Vucevic went to the Chicago Bulls. Evan Fournier went to the Boston Celtics. Well, they lost, and Aaron Gordon obviously went to the Denver Nuggets. So they lost a lot of the star power they had. They are now trying to rebuild that franchise,
Right.
and maybe looking at this year's draft. So we believe, of course, the Orlando Magic are going to lose more games than win games until the end of the season. But sometimes in the NBA, it happens a lot. Surprises happen. The Clippers were with extra confidence they would win, but it's not just the names in the back of your jersey that win games. You have
Right.
to go inside the court, and you have to prove you are better than the other team. And the Clippers were not the better team in that game.
Right. I think sometimes the overconfidence part, as you mentioned, kind of triggers in the team. Maybe they had that confidence because if we look at even if we look at the standings of the Eastern Conference, you'd find the Magic's on the 14th standing, and if we look at the Western Conference, we look at Clippers, they stand on the number 3. So that would definitely be a huge blow on the Clipper side. And I hope that maybe it can be the idea of the trades that you mentioned, because I'm sure Magic would want to come back and try to win more games to get their points up. Maybe it helps, maybe it doesn't. I think time can only tell us that.
Yes, the Clippers were overconfident, of course, and they built a lead in the first half. And then I believe they rested a little bit in the second half, and the Magic had a 17-3 run, and they flipped the game. So that was obviously overconfidence, and maybe that fatigue part that the Ty Lue, the coach, mentioned in the end of the game, because back to back. You have to make a trip between games in 24 hours, get to a new arena. They don't have time to rest. They don't have time to practice. The legs are heavy. And so when it comes to the second half of the second game in a back-to-back, probably things are not going to be as fluid as if you had a day to rest.
Right. And talking about, there was this one news that I would definitely wanted to talk about as well. Let's talk about the Utah Jazz. When yesterday their plane had a bird strike and they had to have that emergency landing, and the team was in a total state of shock. And not to forget that Utah Jazz is obviously going through solid victories, but that would have been a very shocking event for them as a team, because this was something that I was going through and I was like, it would be definitely a disaster.
Yeah, it was a news that caught us all off guard when we saw the pictures of the plane and how it the plane was when it landed. It kind of shocked me. I have to confess.
Right.
So the players were shocked also. Some players didn't want to play, but ultimately it's a professional league. There has been so many postponed games because of COVID that the league, I believe, made some pressure for the team to play, and they played and they won. So they are in very good shape. I believe 7 wins in a row, and top seed in the West.
Right.
And they are playing really, really well under Quinn Snyder.
Right. So, anyways, that was the 7th match that you talked about as well, which is kind of nice to know that, even after the shock, because recently, if you remember, we hear so many offset news. Like, for instance, if we heard about the accident of Tiger Woods, that absolutely shook the world. So, we're living in a world right now of so many upsets day and night. So, let's hope all goes well for them ahead.
Yeah, so we believe everything was just a scary hour, not the kind of scary hours the Brooklyn Nets are promising, but maybe it was just a scary flight. Everything went well with the emergency landing, and
Right.
the players went on court. They played well, so I believe they already got that thing out of their system, and now they are ready to finish the season.
Perfect. Anyways, thank you, Mr. Ricardo, for being a part of the show. It was great to have you.
Thank you for the invitation again.
Pleasure. So that was Ricardo Barito, and obviously he gave us a complete perspective of the NBA standings from the Brooklyn Nets beating the Houston Rockets. Obviously, they still have the next game coming up tonight. We don't even know that James Harden would be out there to play. That would be pretty much interesting. But let's see how things flow by. Anyways, I'll switch over to the next news, which is about cricket. Yes, Sri Lanka scored 250 for 8 wickets on the day. on the day 3. And obviously West Indies were bowled out at 354 in the first innings. So it's pretty much interesting for now when we really look at the world of cricket evolving. West Indies side obviously is leading Sri Lanka by 104 runs. That's basically something that they want to make their comeback. As we talked about this test match developing even yesterday, things are pretty much evolving with regards to the West Indies side, because they've had a very rough time and a very rough patch, but I think making a comeback is very important, and I think Sri Lanka really needs to put their hands down and struggle more to get how to actually perform in the white ball test series. In fact, red ball test series, my bad. Anyways, but that was pretty much about the cricket side. I'll quickly jump over to a major upset. Yes, a major upset in the world of tennis, yes. Naomi Osaka, who actually won the Australian Open. Not to forget, she had not lost any matches, but the match that she lost against Maria Sakkari, which was a major upset because Maria Sakkari is now in the semi-final on the Miami Open. The score line actually is the shocking part. If you look at the score line, it's 6-0-6-4. That is something that we have not seen Naomi Osaka performing this bad. And she had not had a drop, since last February 2020, she had not had faced such a defeat. So it would be alarming for her. Maybe sometimes, even in Australian Open, there were pretty upsetting situations. But that was because of the COVID-19 breach and COVID-19 situation and the isolation. A lot of players actually lost hope. But this time, expecting Naomi Osaka to lose against her was surely a major upset. But guys, this was pretty much it from the world of sports. If you guys want to reach out to us, you guys surely can at the rate of Indus News Sports. That basically is for the Twitter and Instagram. Anyways, take good care of yourself and bye-bye.